You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Well, we all know that alcohol is forbidden in Islam, but is there a verse in which wine is considered a blessing? We're going to be looking at that now as part of our series of misunderstood Quranic verses. Dr. Shabir, welcome.
Pleasure to be on.
So the verse we're looking at is from chapter 16, verse 67. And this is a translation, one translation. It goes, "And from the fruits of the palm trees and grapevines, you obtain intoxicants as well as good provision. In this too, there is a sign for people who think."
Yeah. So if we read it in Arabic, this will lead directly into what I want to say.
Okay.
Usually in English, we don't start sentences with "and." It's possible, but we try to avoid that. But in Arabic, it's very, very common. And usually this is an indication that it follows from something that was already said previously. So let's look at the verse in Arabic and listen for the beginning where it starts with the word "and."
Okay.
Wa in Arabic. وَمِن ثَمَرَاتِ النَّخِيلِ وَالْأَعْنَابِ تَتَّخِذُونَ مِنْهُ سكرا ورزقا حسنا إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يعقلون. So it starts with and from the fruit of the date palm and the grapevine, you derive or distill intoxicants and beneficial provisions, rizqan hasana. Certainly in that is a sign for people who reflect, people who think, people who use their intellect, people who intellectualize. Is that a word? Intellectualize?
Yes.
Okay. The misunderstanding here, Sophia, is that, both among classical commentators on the Quran, and more recently I was listening to a podcast or something in which a preacher of another faith who calls himself a prince of that faith was citing this as a problem for the Quran. And he was insisting, even though there was a Muslim who was, correctly explaining to him, no, the Quran does not mean that intoxicants are good, not even in this verse. But yet he was insisting. So let's unravel this and see, where that misunderstanding arises from and how to correct that misunderstanding. So I drew attention to the start of the verse that begins with the word "and." So it means that you can't just take this out of context. You have to see what came before it. And the verse that was just preceding this one, there is a contrast being drawn between the milk that is produced from cattle and the internals of the cattle, where the internal to the cattle, we have blood, we have excrement being produced, but from the midst of all of that, we have the pure white milk emerging. So God is drawing the attention of people and to this marvel. Like, think about this. Like, if this is a factory, imagine keeping things separate, like in a laboratory, for example. Like, how do you keep the pure white milk separate from the excrement and the blood? And yet in the cow, this is kept separate. How is that? So God is saying, okay, and also now look at the fruit of the date palm and the grapevine. These are fruits. You can enjoy, dates. You can, benefit from these plants so much. And yet from amidst the good things, you also get this intoxicant. So think about how, things are all packaged together and then they can be separated as it happens in fact. So it is not saying at all that intoxicants are good. And what is called rizqan hasanan is distinct from the intoxicants.
Yes, it's intoxicants and good provision.
Good provision,
right?
yeah.
Yes. Which suggests that the intoxicant is not a good provision.
Not a good provision,
yes.
Yeah. There's a suggestion there, though it is not the main point. We must grant that. I mean, for the main point, we know that from other passages of the Quran. So, for example, Surah 2, verse 219, I believe, is the verse that says that, there are benefits and harm from this, but the harm is greater than the benefit. Therefore, people should think about this. And the Surah 5, verse 90 definitively says that, khamr is from ritzu min amal shaitan, filth from the work of the devil. So fajtanibu, so you are to stay away from it. So from this, Muslims understand that it's totally unlawful to consume alcohol. So coming back to our present verse, Surah 16, verse number 67, this should not in any way be construed, even though some classical Muslim commentators also made that mistake, should not be construed as in any way saying that alcohol is good. Yeah, true, the people who were drinking it might have thought, oh, this is good. And this is, they might have even thought this is a blessing from God. But that's not what the Quran is sanctioning. In fact, if we draw a parallel between the two verses, there's why I think the and is so important that begins this particular verse. Sometimes the and is only there for stylistic reasons, but here it is definitely a connection with what came before, and the connection is very strong. See, when we thought about the blood and the excrement as distinct from the milk, now if we think of the parallel in the next verse that talks about the alcohol that people distill on the one hand and the good provisions that are there in these trees that God has provided, then obviously the good provisions parallel the fruit of those trees. The Rizqan Hasanan that is mentioned in Surah 16, verse 67, parallels the milk that is coming from the cow. These are all good provisions, right, in one column. And then in the next column, what do we have parallel to each other? The alcohol is at the bottom, and above that is the blood and excrement. So in a subtle way, this verse is actually linking the alcohol with the blood and excrement coming from the cattle. Mm-hmm. So one should see then that there is no way that this verse should be construed as supporting the drinking of alcohol or in any way calling this as a blessing from God. Unless we want to say that whatever good can come out of alcohol, that may be a blessing from God. Like, for example, if alcohol is used for sanitization or anything like this. I mean, we became all too aware of that during the COVID lockdown period.
Don't remind me of that.
Okay, yes, don't bring that back. In sum, that has been a misunderstanding, and I'm glad that we had the chance to clear it up.
All right, thank you for that, Dr.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.